In the mid-1980s, Michele and her husband with their two children were sent as missionaries to East Africa by Partners International, and Michele's story begins with what she was seeing there.
And what I was seeing in the abuse and slavery of girls was shocking and heartbreaking. And part of the reason that it really pierced me so deeply is because I had been rescued from the home of a pedophile. All throughout my childhood, my father sexually exploited me, commercially sexually exploited me. So I thought that was all forgotten and in the past, that I would never have to dredge that stuff up. But something happened for me when I saw what was happening for girls. It was as though the Lord tapped me on the shoulder and said, you know, you needed a rescue, and I gave you one. You needed a new family and a new identity. Now, what are you going to do for these children of mine? And that was my moment when I realized I've never heard of modern slavery in the 80s. It wasn't a thing anyone was talking about, but I knew it was my thing, that God was asking me to do something. So when we got back to the U.S., of course, I'd been writing letters home and all, as missionaries do. There were a group of praying friends, and in about 2000, we just agreed before the Lord that it was time to launch out. She is safe. And part of the reason for the focus on girls is because 99% of all sex slaves are females, little girls and women. So we thought, well, we're going to have to focus on some area. Where is it going to be? Who do we think is in the most urgent need? It doesn't mean it doesn't happen to boys and men. It certainly does. But when it comes to sex slavery, that's about 1% of the population. So, but we still had that value of taking Christ to least reached places. So we thought, let's combine all of that and see what the research will tell us. So in the year 2000, we started the research, field research, going to about a dozen countries with a team of researchers to understand, you know, who are these underserved ones? What are some of the root causes of modern slavery and human trafficking, and the very best interventions that we could do? I love telling people, young people ask me, you know, all the time, I want to be a missionary. God has that call on my life. How do you decide where to go? And I always say, well, pick some place that's underserved, right? Those are we want to complete the Great Commission, take the gospel of the whole world. Choose one of those places for your focus. And I will tell you, when you get there, what you will find is women and girls are abused and sold with impunity, just like it's the norm of the culture to do that. We don't live in a culture that normalizes abuse and slavery, though it does happen. And we have I live in Atlanta area. We've got great law enforcement, and there's sting operations and safe homes. And I bless the Lord, you know, for all of that good work. But if you're going to start out and invest your life, why not go to those places that are underserved? So that is where She's Safe is now. We have about 19 people on staff. We're in 7 countries on the busiest human trafficking corridors, because the overlay between least reached and busiest human trafficking corridors, they match one another. So there's a reason. Wherever Christ goes, women and girls are exalted, and to full participants with Him and their families and society. So you can look at the map of unreached people groups and the map of human trafficking, and you will see those are the same places. Every year we have about 25,000 individual women or girls in either a program of prevention, rescue, or restoration. This last year, an additional 65,000 children in these high-risk villages and communities learned about abuse and trafficking, and their parents learned and their teachers learned as well. So we partner with those indigenous churches and indigenous Christian nonprofit organizations too. So we can have a much bigger impact if we don't care who's out front, if we don't care who gets the credit. I really, believe in equipping local indigenous women to do the work, and then we support them in every way with training and curriculum and funding, because, of course, they understand the language, they know how to navigate these abuses, they grew up under them. That's part of the insight that I love to share with little girls who've been brought out of trafficking is, God has been at work in your life, giving you insights that nobody else has, so that he's shaping you for his service. And, we need generation after generation to come up and to exalt his heart for women and girls. So that's the big story for me of She Is Safe. My aha didn't happen until after I was a mom, a missionary lady, and realized, oh, it was those things that I was ashamed of and that I hated, that God actually used that for all that he's doing for these women and girls now and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Must have been tough to tuck that away in your mind, and then it butt up right in the midst of having your own two girls and being in a country where you were a foreigner and in a mission field.
Yeah, it was very complicated. I thought I was going to have a very simple job there, raise my family, offer hospitality to African church leaders, and liaison with the headquarters back in San Jose, California. But suddenly there was all this. Gratefully, we were part of a church there in Nairobi that was an international church. The elders were African men, and I talked to the lead elder and told him, I said, I'm seeing things here I don't understand. And maybe I'm just new and you can help me interpret it. I said, I'm seeing that girls are kept home from school. They're fed less than boys, so their bodies are more fragile. And that they're often sold either into marriage or domestic slavery or something worse. And it just appears like it's happening all around in my own neighborhood. And he just put his head in his hands and said, Michele, I'm so sorry. He said, you're right. He said, the mistreatment of women and girls, their abuse and their slavery, it is on our hearts. And he said, I'm so glad you're interested, because we have a few women of the church who are lobbying for freedom and for education for these girls. Why don't you see what you can learn from them? So I thought I went there to teach some things. Instead, God took me there to learn what it really means to be a Christian woman in the face of the awful things that happen all around us in this fallen world. I had attended wonderful churches, Bible-believing churches. I had been in Bible studies, led Bible studies. I had not connected our service out into the world to all that Jesus had done for me concerning the things that I've been through. And that really became a joy and a passion for me, is to help women kind of get over, I'm so ashamed. I'm never going to tell anybody that I was raped or that I had an abortion or that I, was sold or that I stole something. We need to start bringing to the surface the things that we've been through or put ourselves through, and then talk about the redemption of Christ for those very things, because there are women sitting all around us who think, oh, they're so shameful. They wouldn't dare bring up anything that they've been through, but they've been through a lot. They've gained insights, and Christ has helped them transcend those things. It's time for us to talk about the wonderful things that God has done to pull us out of these pits as an encouragement to others. Otherwise, they think, oh, you always look so fine. You have it all together. You probably never went through anything like I did.
Yeah. So if women want to get involved with She Is Safe, how can they do that?
Well, sheissafe.org is our website, and it's really loaded with some wonderful information. We also have, for this month, National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, we have created a Human Trafficking Prevention Kit. So it has tips for safety, for parents, for teens, for children even, and then some basic definitions from the Department of Homeland Security, and a hotline for help. So all of that is packaged. Should be able to click on it on our website, but you can also Google She Is Safe Human Trafficking Prevention, and that kit will pop right up. We also are always looking for people to join us as advocates. We have advocates across the country, so maybe you can't go out and rescue someone. You've got other responsibilities, but this is on your heart. You can become a She Is Safe advocate right where you are. And we have a special Facebook page for that, and all kinds of information to help somebody kind of take those steps forward to become an advocate and make a difference. And of course, email us at info@sheissafe.org and ask any questions that you want. We love letting people look under the hood and kick the tires and see what we're all about. Meet some of the wonderful people that are making this all happen.
Now you have a story of redemption to share.
Yes.
Please share.
Well, She Is Safe is really big on making this big issue real to people by telling the real life stories. How does this happen? So, and some of the stories are documented in our books that came out of the research. We have 2 within InterVarsity Press. One is Daughters of Hope, about women. And then the second book is Forgotten Girls. And these are firsthand stories of courage and redemption, but also we get at the hard story to really highlight how this happens. So a girl we will call Debbie. We try and protect the dignity and security of people in our stories. So we call her Debbie. Debbie saw other young teens in her village in Nepal to go and never be seen again. It's like they were there one day, they turned 13 and they're gone. In fact, it happened so often, she knew she was going to be next as she got closer to 13 years old. Every girl in her village over the age of 12 went missing. Mm-hmm. And of course, she didn't exactly understand what was happening, but it was pretty terrifying. Well, when She Is Safe learned about what was happening in this community, I mean, that's our job, keep this on the radar screen. Where is this prevalent? So we began to seek out local Christians there who might know and be able to tell us what was going on. We came upon a church planting group that was working in that village and having a really tough time. And as we worked with them to discern, what do you think really is the root cause of why these girls are being sold? And then we learned that there was a food shortage every single year. They're in the Himalayas. It was very cold and rocky, and food just would not grow for much of the year. So it was a poverty and food issue, but there was also something about this very negative view that girls were a worthless burden on the family. Might as well get something for them. So for the going rate of about $50, you could send your daughter and money would come home to you every month as long as she survived. Well, we met Debbie in a brothel community that has over 30,000 sex slaves. Let that sink in. The average age when a girl begins is 11 years old, and she will only survive 7 years. She will die of sexually transmitted diseases, childbirth, suicide. I mean, their lives are very short. So there's always an appetite for more girls. I mean, we have nothing that compares to this in the United States. A brothel that is considered a legitimate business Well, because it is considered legitimate, our coworkers were able to go in, create relationships with the girls and the madams, and just kind of bring things up. If you ever become sick, which many of them do, or you become pregnant, or you just need to get out of here. We just want you to know that we have a place, a restoration home, where you can gain new skills and build a whole new life of dignity with God on your side. And so we often have to negotiate with the madam and let her know, first of all, she may have a legitimate business if these girls are 18 or older. If they are under 18, it's illegal. And so we just bring that up. And, one madam told me, well, as soon as a girl comes to me, I don't know how old she is. She's sold to me, and I take her in. And first thing I do is take her to the police station and get her identity papers that show she's 18. She's 11. Why would the police say she's 18? Well, something's going on under the table, yes, right? Yes. So this girl then is really stuck. Mm-hmm. But those madams, most of them started the same way. Mm-hmm. And they started out as sex slaves. They were betrayed and sold. And there's a heart in there. And so we kind of strum those chords and say, this is probably not a good life for her. And we have a place. And we want you to know. We have had madams who have quit the sex industry in order to join a She Is Safe group. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. So back to Debbie's Village, we started assessing, what is a shortage here that we could help with, that the families that are selling daughters could sell something instead. And we identified goats. So it's the message to families is very simple. It's illegal to sell your daughters. God has his eye on your village, and he wants to help you keep them. Mm-hmm. And we think you should work with us. We'll help you sell goats instead of girls. We'll get specialists in to train you in animal husbandry. And we will also invest in the village so you can have a school. The girls can be fed as well as boys. All of those things are so important. So our country director for Nepal lives here in the U.S. and travels back and forth to kind of manage the relationships and the programs on the ground and scope out other areas where we can grow this kind of program.
Mm-hmm. What's the pandemic looking like over there?
Well, it's really very difficult. It's surging, kind of surging behind our surges. So it's spreading, and many of these families have no sanitation, no masks, nothing like that. So one of the things that we have seen is during lockdown, actually people cannot get out even for food. So what a service opportunity for us. We're able then to go into the brothels that I mentioned with food. In one community alone, we distributed 50,000 in 1 month, 50,000 meals. And then we circle back, and what's happening is they're saying, we know about what you offer. Could you start helping us now to do that? Because we're getting kicked out. Mm-hmm. No one can feed us, and so they're putting us on the streets. Would She Is Safe take us into one of your programs? So on the one hand, it's horrible. There will probably be more deaths from starvation in India during the lockdown than from COVID. Mm-hmm. So in our little She Is Safe groups, 12 to 20 women gather each week, led by a woman that we have trained. We have a curriculum in multiple languages, and it's to run these groups on a weekly basis to help the women save and lend and learn a skill, some kind of income generating skill, and how to be successful at that, and to learn the tricks of traffickers, the importance of feeding girls and sparing them from child marriage and that sort of thing. So these groups become a mutual support to one another. And the women are there then equipped and learn about Christ to go forward in their lives. So it's been tremendously exciting to us to see a positive surge of those who want to join these groups. So it's an opportunity on the one hand, and then the strain on the ministry is, wow, we need to be able to afford everyone in the program. It's not much. It's about $1 a day for every person who's in the program, in one of our programs, and that's less than a cup of coffee to help somebody transform in every way that a person can be transformed. One of the most important things that we can do is realize that the things that we have been through in our lives, God has been there, and He wants to use those, redeem those, shape us to be able to become the women that He has called us to be. It's His desire that we receive what Christ has offered to us through His death and burial and coming alive again. He wants to redeem our lives, to buy back what the enemy has stolen from us. And He's the creator and the recreator. So He loves to take what we offer to Him and then walk alongside us. It's there that we find relief from guilt and shame, and that He really has the power to make us brand new and to live a life of joy and purpose. No matter what you've been through, God wants to grant to you that abundant life full of exalting Him to those who need Him, just like you and I do. There are many that you could talk to that I never will have an opportunity to talk with, or I couldn't relate to them, or they relate to me. They need you to become the person that He's created you to be.